We are live. How is everybody doing? I am Pat DeBear, and it is Thursday night. It's 8 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. I've already screwed up the broadcast, and we are about 10 seconds in. I love it. It. Uh, oh, I have stuff playing on the side. I've got my own voice coming back in here. Sorry, live theater, live broadcasts. So yeah, it is Thursday night. That means it is time for our second edition of the Small Business Spotlight, the show that is aimed to bring attention to people who deserve it. We have members of our LGBTQIA plus community and our allies that are small businesses, that are artists, that are musicians, that are people that are out there. And in these uncertain times, it's within every bit of my power to try to get a little bit of attention drawn to these people, so that way you out there can know and support these artists and these small businesses, and not only help them through this time, but become supporters of theirs and help them to continue living the dream that they have set out for themselves. So I am excited because I am being joined today by a very talented fellow who was brought to my attention by Jaden, Pub Zerberus here in Chicago. Some of you may know him as a former Mr. Bearbust. And we've been chatting off and on over the last couple of weeks. I've listened to his music, and I am so excited to chat with him. So, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, welcome to the program. This is Adam Noreen.
Hey Pat,
Hi, Adam.
how are you doing?
I am delightful. It is finally getting warm up here in Chicago, and it is tank top weather. I I seriously was like, I'm gonna wear this because it's a bearskin tank top, so I'm supporting another one of my favorite companies out there, another small business, Bearskin. And then I was like, wait a minute, you're gonna have a hot, muscly man who can sing amazingly well. Do you really want to put yourself next to him in a tank top? And then I said, fuck it, it's warm out here, and I'm just gonna do it. So hey.
I opted not to wear a tank top for this, so we had opposite thought process.
I listen. I appreciate it so that way I don't look, bad in comparison. I appreciate that. So before we get into too much, I do want to put this out there to anybody that is watching. We are broadcasting to my personal Facebook page. We are broadcasting to the Bears in the City page as well, and we are on the Bears in the City YouTube page. That's what the voice of my own voice coming back in was earlier. And I have it playing just to make sure that it's actually, going. And I wanted to put out there that if you have any questions for Adam over the course of the show, please get into the live chat on YouTube, get into the live chat on Facebook, and write your questions. And, we'll put up a little, see, it'll pop up on the screen just like it is now. And Adam will get to see it, I'll get to see it, and we can do a little Q&A throughout the course of our program. So with that out of the way, I completely forgot that last week. We did get a question last week, but it was completely unintentional, and I want to put it out there because I love for the people watching to be able to interact. And if they have a question that I don't think about, I want to get that asked and answered. So, Adam, when did you get into singing? What made you catch the singing bug?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I got the itch to start playing in a band. So I had a guitar. I was in the jazz band at the time. Wasn't very good, not gonna lie. But I started getting into like emo rock music and like the Warped Tour bands, and it was the cool thing as a sophomore in high school to start being in a band. So at the time, I really couldn't sing at all. I was honestly pretty embarrassed. It felt like a very like female thing to be like a singer. So it was like a coming out in a way when I kind of let everyone know like this is what I'm interested in doing and this would be fun. And interestingly enough, I got together with some guys. I said I'm going to be the singer, and I wrote one song. and we played it at a talent show in front of about like 200 people. So talk about like a big first start. Uh, and like at the time, like I had no nerves. Like I went into it, I had fun. It was good, and things kind of evolved from there.
Awesome. So, what were some of your favorite songs? So you wrote your first song when you decided to become a singer. Did you
Yeah.
do just your own music? Were you doing covers? If it was covers, what were some of the fun things that you enjoyed singing at the time?
Yeah, so interestingly, and this kind of leads to today, I really haven't done many covers. Covered a Kesha song on my last album, and that's the only cover I've really ever done outside of when I was in a band before. We covered a Blondie song, and towards the death of my last band, we were covering Vanessa Carlton, A Thousand Miles. But in terms of covers, they really haven't ever been a big part of my narrative as an artist. I just personally haven't really ever connected with doing other people's music.
Okay. And yeah, that was one of the things that it kind of was interesting for me because I looked at it. I remember Jaden mentioning at some point in time, we talked about the Harold song. And I, thinking back on it, I remember him saying, "Oh, I've heard this cover of it." And I said, "Oh, okay, cool." Like, not even thinking about it. And then he introduced us through Facebook and sent me the link for the album and everything. And I pulled up the album and I'm listening to it and I'm looking at the track list and I'm like, okay, going through, and I saw the Harold song. And now, mind you, this conversation with Jaden about the Harold song was a long time ago. Like,
Yeah.
well, the album came out in 2017, correct?
Yep, it was a bit
20,
ago.
okay. So definitely it's been a couple of years since Jaden had mentioned it. And I'm like, this can't be. I'm just like, it's odd that there'd be another song titled the Harold song, but like this can't be it. Because I don't know if you know, but
Oh
that's
wow, that's just
and
through and through.
for the last year and a half, pretty much consistently, my profile picture on Facebook is me with Kesha on my shoulder. And that was right after she signed my arm, but right before I got it tattooed. So I love Kesha. So I'm listening to the album, and then all of a sudden I'm working at the same time. I'm working on something, and I just start singing along, and I was like, wait a minute. Oh, this is the Harold song. And I was like, okay, I am pretty much just done. You could sing the phone book, and I'm like, all right, I'm your fan. Where can I throw the money at? Where can I buy album merch? Whatever you got, just send it on over. So you have won over a fan completely at this point. So I'm just letting you know that right now.
I'm glad to hear that.
So walk us through how you went from putting a band together and writing your song and deciding you were going to be the singer to your EP. That was 2015, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was quite a journey from my first band to that EP. The first band that I was in, it kind of fizzled out around 2010. And then I got into another band in college called Saline. We had a girl singer, and then I also sang. And it was kind of a blend of like Paramore with another guy singer in sort of a way. And we played on Warped Tour in Chicago in 2012, and that was really cool. Just one date, but it still stands as like one of the coolest days of my life, to be completely honest. But we ended up breaking up. There was just a lot of feuding always going on. There was a lot of personalities, especially when you have two singers that want the spotlight. It leads to a lot of disagreements. So after the band broke up, that's honestly not far from when I came out, and I ended up moving from the suburbs of Chicago into Chicago proper, and kind of starting my life as an adult and an independent person. I wasn't in college anymore. I wasn't living with my parents. And so obviously with that came a lot more responsibility and a lot less time to do music. So I still did a bit of music. Everything was just independently, me recording on my computer, sharing some stuff here and there, auto-tuning everything to no end, because I still to this day have no idea how to produce my own vocals correctly. And a couple of years into living on my own, I went through a breakup in like 2014, and it was like one of my first boyfriends, and it just like hit me really hard. Even though it was like a 6 month relationship, it just like it like devastated me. And I wrote this song about it called 6-7, and reflecting on that, it's really unfair the way that I wrote the lyrics because I wrote them like from such an unfair point of view. But it did push me to say, hey, you know, like I really enjoy what I'm doing again, and I want to put this on paper and I want to make it a reality. So I started writing a few more songs. I carried over some stuff from years past, and that's kind of how Time Takes It All came to be. I ended up working with the original recording engineer from my last band when we did our full length album, and went out to New York and ended up working on the EP. And it was a lot of fun.
Nice. And that's a 4-track EP, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Okay. And then from that to your full length album, so you had a 2-year gap between your EP and your full length.
Yeah.
What changed? What brought you to the point where you felt, okay, I'm ready to take this next step and put out a full length album?
Yeah. That's a loaded answer, and I'll try to give you a short.
Yeah, we've got time.
So when I was, interestingly enough, when I was recording the EP in New York, I was in the middle of a new relationship, and there were already a lot of signs that it was turning into a really manipulative and abusive relationship. And you know, there were nights when I was out there, and I was only out there for a week, but I was probably like crying half of the time I was out there because of the things that were being said to me. And you know, at the time, I had never experienced anything like that from a human being, let alone someone that you really care about. So I came back, apologies were made, and I spent the next like 2.5 years pretty much after that, or maybe about 2 years, going through a cycle of on, off, can't give it up. Everyone around me sees a lot of abuse happening, and I just couldn't walk away from it. I don't know what it was. I turned into a very passive, defensive person in a lot of respects. And I think me writing the album in a lot of ways was me kind of being honest with myself and reclaiming myself. And so I was sort of armed with a lot of my experiences from the years following writing that EP, and decided to kind of put that on paper and tell those stories. And that's what I ended up doing to come up with the songs for the album. I did end up carrying over 2 songs from the EP, The Native and 6-7, and actually Curtain Call. So 3 songs I carried over. So interestingly enough, those 3 are not relevant to the narrative of that relationship, but the rest of the album is very much a breakup anthem, if you will, including the Herald song, which I guess we could talk a little bit more about in a minute.
So, was there a point when, so the way that you described writing 6-7 for the EP, when you decided to carry it over for the full length album, did you think about tweaking it or modifying it to fit the relationship that you were in now, or either of the other 2 songs as well? Or was it just like, okay, I still love these songs and I want them to be a part of this bigger project?
Yeah, so interestingly, a lot of times when I write music, I like to reference my past. And so when I decided to carry 6-7 over, it was very intentional, because that was the date of my breakup from 2014. And I wrote 8-9, which is also on my album, which was significant to the next date. And I joined the 2 of those songs with the intermission track called Continuum, which in a lot of ways lyrically bridges the 2 songs, and kind of bridges the different themes, which are very much connected. So it's kind of like I bridged 2 different extremes, if you will. One was at the time seemingly very devastating, but when you actually follow it through that intermission track and go on to the next one, it feels very similar, but it was actually very different in a lot of ways.
Okay. And yeah, I noticed the fact that I didn't realize that there were dates at first because, you know, it depends on how you look at
Yeah.
numbering, and certain artists will you do certain things with it. So as soon as you mentioned the second, I was like, oh, okay, that's And then when it's 6, 7, and 8, 9, you kind of also then go, wait a minute, is it just
Yeah.
so your breakups worked out perfectly date wise?
I know. I was very for a while. I was worried about 11, 12. I was like, shit, what's gonna happen in the future on that? Or wait, no,
Right.
it'll be 10, 11. I can't
10,
follow.
11.
Can't follow numbers.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Just keep on putting out good music, and you don't have to worry about numbers. um. So okay. So I want to let's jump into the Harold song as it is now. What tied the Harold song into you, like into your life? How did like that whole thing? Because not a lot of people, unless you're like really like a big Kesha fan, that song doesn't really pop up in a lot of places.
Yeah.
It's my absolute favorite song off of that EP, and up until Rainbow came out, probably was my favorite Kesha song ever. And then Rainbow came out and just repeatedly punched me in the face with emotions, and I was like, wait a minute, okay, all right, so now this album is just up here, and then song wise, the Harold song is there. So how did that like really kind of enter into your space and become part of your life to put it as part of this project?
Yeah, so interestingly, it wasn't gonna be a part of the album at all, but in coming into the studio, I unfortunately still had several things not finished. And thematically, it felt like it made the easiest sense since we didn't really have to create much from scratch. We could kind of just adapt that song to our sound. So uh, the way that the song sort of originated for me was within that relationship. I really didn't know about it, to be completely frank. I think Ketcha is very catchy, but she's never been one of my favorites per se. I haven't
I'm
ever.
sorry. I'm sorry. This interview's over. I gotta go.
That
Oh,
said,
sorry. There.
I do love that song, not just
Okay.
my version. Uh, I, I've never been super connected with pop music. Just it hasn't ever really been my thing. I love a catchy chorus, so hey, regardless of what genre, I'm here for it, and that song had it. But essentially, when I was in that relationship, we'd drive up to Wisconsin a lot, my ex and I, and he'd start making playlists, and he in a way coined that as like our song. And like when you listen through the lyrics, it like kind of tells this drunken love story. And like a big theme of our relationship was that drunken love story, if you will, and that he would get drunk and it would turn into an abusive time, unfortunately. And so I tried to tie that in because it felt like thematically it made a lot of sense. And it felt like a very honest part to kind of include in the album.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and I mean it is a bittersweet song overall, and it just
Yeah.
yeah, it definitely and it listening to your album, it wasn't jarring at all to be like, okay, well, it just kind of the way that you were able to reimagine it fit so well with the rest of the sound of the album, and it just overall it was very nice to hear like a different take on it for sure. So
I appreciate
e-
that.
even though it may not be something that was in your periphery beforehand, we'll continue this conversation.
It's funny because when we went to do that song, the engineer that I work with, he had recently seen Kesha at the New York State Fair. I think it was just like months prior, and this was in the middle of the lawsuit that she was going through. And so he knew the backstory. He actually had seen her and said it was not a very cute show with the way that she had to kind of be maneuvering her music for a short period of time. I want to say she wasn't able to use a lot of her tracks, and so she had this very like folky way of doing everything. So it was kind of a fun little like add-on, because when we started talking about doing the cover, he was kind of adding that context from his recent experience with Kesha, and I can't take complete credit for the way that the sound was molded there. He did a lot of the instrumentation, and I mean, I provided the vocals for that. But I'm very fortunate to be able to work with someone who understands my sound and sort of what I'm going for, to where we can come up with something like that together.
No, absolutely, and you're I get that because it's not a very like pure instrument driven. It's definitely a very synth, a very electronic vibe to the song. And it's kind of funny that you talk about him seeing her during that point in time, because that was such a weird time for her,
Yeah,
because everything had to either go, she went folksy and then she went kind of punk, like punk rock with a lot of stuff. And to this day, she still actually does a lot of her original like pop, like straight up pop music in a very kind of punky way. And it's interesting. So
yeah.
kind of playing off of the that comment about you're the producer, like molding the sound for that. A lot of your music is very guitar driven. It's very instrument heavy, which I absolutely love. How many instruments do you play? Is it just guitar, or are there any other instruments that you're able to play?
Yeah, I play guitar and piano mainly. So I picked up piano back in high school. I've never taken a piano lesson, but I've been able to compose a lot of music, which I tried to weave a lot into this album. Like there are some pretty piano heavy tracks, and the Harold song felt like a perfect way to continue to bring that sound into the album. And I think as time goes on, I've been really thinking about moving more into that direction because I love guitar driven music, but I'm sort of graduating beyond that pop punk style that I think I've been in for so long.
That's awesome. I am here 100% for a musician who brings that sound and who's able to kind of weave that in there. Um, I'm the events that I've run, the events that I love the most are the ones that incorporate live music. And when you have that, especially in some of the within some of the confines of what I do and what I'm able to do, having that guitar, being able to play guitar, being able to do piano and stuff like that, is it just I could sit there and listen to a good musician that is just singing their heart out and has that emotion behind it. So that's fantastic. Um, Okay, so before we continue on, I want to pop a question up here because Jaden, like I said, Jaden was the one that introduced us. He says that he loves the whole album. The Native is one of his favorite songs, and was the one how he discovered you. Listening to it now, at times it's interesting listening to it now at times as it feels relevant to the time. Did you ever consider it being a song about race?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what it is about. So that song's very interesting because in the narrative of everything that I did on the album, it is the oldest. It originated from a creative writing project that I had to do in college. My professor said, go to an art museum, go to a local art shop. I don't care what you do, just find something that you connect with and write about it. And so I went to my hometown and we went to this little art gallery, and there was this portrait of this Native American woman with these beautiful plateaus and just this beautiful scenery behind her. And the artist had taken these three arrows, like actual arrows, and stuck them through her back, so they were coming through her, and they were kind of like right into her body. And she was just like about to fall, like her stance was about to break. And I thought that it was so cool. And it just really got me thinking. I don't know why I just had this moment. Maybe it was because I was forced to for a project or what it was. But I ended up just kind of drawing these parallels between, you know, the Native American race, sort of how our country originated. And I've never been a big political guy. It wasn't really my attempt to make a big political statement, but the further that I sort of dove into this metaphor, the more that I was trying to relate it to not only race, but friendship, and how a lot of times the people that help get us to where we are, we end up abandoning them or hurting them or completely, you know, forgetting who they were and how we got there. And we just sort of pave over that history without thinking about the impact that we've made. So if you kind of listen through the lyrics, I tried to adapt that creative writing sample to a lyric that would have the right things repeating so that you really are dwelling on that particular subject. And I would say to this day, it's probably my favorite song I've ever written lyrically.
Oh well, see now you answered a question before I even asked it, because I was going to ask you about what's your favorite song that you've written. Well, you've killed two birds with one stone on that one, and your friend Ashley Potter said that she went to the museum with you. So,
Yeah, that's my younger sister. She's tuning in to
oh,
support.
oh, well, there you go. Well, hello, little sis. How are you? Uh, so that it's amazing how art, even no matter where you think you stand or where you think you are at that point in time, or how you want a trajectory to be, it's amazing how other art will influence you to create things that no matter what's going on, it's just it's gonna make something that's gonna be extremely powerful for not only you but for people that are gonna
Yeah,
consume that art as well. So it's amazing to see that happen, and it's honestly it's a great thing to hear that these things we can put these things out into the world and have other people experience that as well. So that's fantastic. What plans do you have coming up?
that is a question.
See, I told you it was going to be an easy interview, and then I throw the hard questions out there.
Yeah, so I would like to give you a lot of concrete plans and goals and all of that, but unfortunately, I've been in kind of a lull for a while. I think a lot of it, to be completely frank, is just stress that I've had with my job, like for 2 years now. I recently moved into a new position, at least temporarily, and I've been given a little bit more like headspace and freedom to where when I end my workday, I feel like I can be creative again. And like just over the last 3 or 4 weeks, like I feel like I can breathe again, and I feel like I'm starting to come up with different things that I would like to do and different goals that I'd like to take. So I would say, like, honestly, since I put that album out, I keep saying this is going to be my year to get back into performing, and I really haven't pulled the trigger. But I think I'm going to take baby steps. I am talking with the engineer that I've done all of my music with throughout the years, and we're going to talk about doing a single via the quarantine way. In that I would record my vocals, send them over to him. We would produce everything kind of remotely, and I'd be able to release it in that sort of respect. So I'm excited to see how I can do that, and I am trying to light a fire under myself so that I can do that and just start getting back into the groove of things, so that I can start, maybe put an EP out towards the end of this year. And I really need to get back into performing because it just scares me to get back out there.
Well, I will say this, and hopefully it gives you some sort of reassurance. One of probably my all-time favorite albums was done by Coastally, and was done with the vocalist on one side of the country and the musician and producer on the other side, and everything was transported through the United States Postal Service. And for
Wow.
those that are not catching on, it's the Postal Service. Their album "Give Up" from many years ago at this point. I want to say probably 13-ish years, I think. But it's an amazing album, and honestly, I was on your Instagram and saw some clips of you putting some harmony tracks together and stuff like that. So it's definitely an interesting time, and I get it. Work is definitely tough, especially when that's how you survive. That's the thing that's gonna put a roof over your head and food on the table and make sure that you can go day to day. So it's good to see that you're getting to a point where you're able to kind of steer towards being able to be a little bit more creative. Uh, so yeah, obviously not having concrete plans, and especially right now, this is probably the worst time to be like, okay, well, we have definite concrete plans, because you never know what tomorrow is going to bring as far as
Yeah.
anything that's going on in this world. So um, it is good to see that you're starting to push yourself to write and to get these tracks put together. So I know I'm excited. I know that there's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to be excited to hear this. And honestly, I'd love to get involved with you as far as getting finding a performance area. I run events, or I oversee some events that maybe we can work together in the not too distant future once
Yeah.
things calm down, and get all that get that worked out together. So I have no problem at this point in time in my life trying to help one not just push like to put people on other people's radar, but to try to do whatever I can to help. And that's where this all came from. That's why there's even the show going on right now that I'm 150% a huge supporter of my artists, of my friends that are doing great things, and I want to see them succeed. So I want more people out there to get to know who you are. And I think you may know this person,
Oh gosh.
but more music soon.
Yeah, that's my dad.
So if this wasn't enough of a little push, just all right, just keep going. So where can the kids find you on the socials, as they don't say nowadays, but I just tried to say.
I'm pretty much everywhere except for Twitter. So I had a Twitter. I think it's still there. I probably haven't provided an update in like 3 years. So don't do anything on Twitter. But I appreciate the Twitter headlines lately because they're hilarious. But pretty much spend most of my time either with Instagram or Facebook. But Facebook's not really the best way. I would say I share most of my music to my Instagram. And then if I have a finished product, it'll go to my YouTube channel.
Okay. Let's see if I can get this. Let's see if I can get this right. If I can do this quickly. Let's see if I got this right.
You got it.
Look at me go. You would think as a host that I would actually like have this stuff prepared beforehand. I didn't.
I have a funny story about that handle too, from Instagram. So I had a pretty long time girlfriend through high school and then through college, and her Instagram handle for the longest time was Kelly Meow, and I think she might be listening on here, which would be hilarious. But I was like, that doesn't sound good. Like Adam Meow has my name in it. It flows, and I changed it, and she got so mad because I didn't have Instagram at the time. Like I was making a new account, and I didn't even know what it was. This was like at the beginning of it all, and she was like, "You can't have the same handle as me," and was like all upset about it in a funny way. And so I kind of forced her hand out of having that, and it just kind of stuck. And now I have 4 cats, so it kind of makes perfect sense.
I was curious about how the handle came about, because I'm like, okay, some people have their name, or it's their name official, or their name music, or and then I'm like, Adam Meow, okay. So so now in a completely like different tangent on this, and it'll kind of tie in a second. So you are a very muscular gentleman. You're a very handsome fellow. I, without really like kind of also many YouTube videos of Selena. Your dad is, I love this. Your dad's popping in with all the good info right now.
I don't know what he's referring to.
So I know that artists should be and are strive to be really just kind of taken seriously because you are an artist. But there have been other musicians who have gone out there and kind of flex their physique around the same time as their music, and then been upset because that became kind of the forefront, and then and wanted to be okay, like, I'm not a piece of meat, focus on my art. And then when the views start dying down, they're like, here's me in a Speedo. How do you navigate, like, how do you navigate all of that in a world of thirst traps And when you're trying to, when you are an artist and you're putting your music out there, like, do you find a way to be able to bring that to a good level, or do you just focus on the art and kind of leave the rest, leave the thirsty photos aside?
I would say I tried to be pretty reserved in that regard. I mean, my Instagram, and maybe because it's summer, we've been doing more outdoor activities, so that's a little bit different. But I really haven't ever been one to just like, oh, my Instagram feed is just going to be like Jim's selfie, shirtless selfie. Like, it just it seems very artificial to have that be uh, the entirety there. But I would say like it is interesting when you will post music and you'll get comments that really don't have anything to do with the music. But I just have come to accept that. I mean, it doesn't offend me by any means. I understand too that like at least what I've put out so far is probably not the norm. I hate to generalize, but it's not necessarily the norm of what our community loves. We are a big pop music community in a lot of ways. And so I've just sort of always written to what I enjoy. And if others, want to focus on the physical side and like that is what they like about me being an artist, or they are appreciating the music more, or some sort of blend of that, I don't really think it matters. I think whatever I guess they're getting out of it, but I try not to make it too superficial because I think that that's where it becomes very gimmicky and it becomes not at all about the music. And I mean, I've seen artists like that in our community, and I have respect for that too. I mean, like everyone has to get to where they want to be in whatever way that they feel comfortable. And if they want to be flashy and make it more physical, then let them live their life.
No, absolutely. And I mean, I can appreciate the look of an artist. I can appreciate all of that stuff. But when it comes down to it, the music and the art, what they're making, matters the most. And
Yeah.
honestly, if I'm not into the art, if I'm not into the music, if I'm not into the what's being created, then it's like, okay, cool. I'll appreciate this person for the looks or for whatever, but I want in the music and all that stuff, I want to be able to really kind of feel it, and that is a speaks to your point about, like, yes, a lot of what the community is driven to is pop music. When you have huge multi-million dollar making artists, when they put out a more or folk or a more lyrically driven album, Joanne, and then everybody's like,
And
can you start doing pop music again? It's tough, but that's why, like, some of my favorite people out there are Tom Goss and Bobby Joe Valentine, in the LGBT world, and I have a ton of musicians that I work with, that I have worked with in Orlando, where it's very lyric driven, it's very emotional, it's very heartfelt, and that's the same thing. That's what I was connecting to with your music, and it's just an extra bonus that you're pretty to look at. So I mean, uh, so that's a huge thing for me personally. So another question from Jaden, and this is, now we're just diving completely off of the music tangent. He's also seen that you cook, and he wants to know if there is a recipe that you love, and that the sorbets look divine. I
yeah,
appreciate his use of the word of them looking divine.
so my Instagram feed is either music, cats, or lately just like my cooking. And a lot of what I've been doing lately are making lots of sorbets. And so I don't know how this got started. I think like 2 or 3 years ago when I moved to Austin, I lost my job and I had a lot of free time. And so I started like DIYing random stuff, like making pickles and making ice cream and all this stuff. So I think at some point last year, I was like, I want to make a sorbet. And I looked up a basic recipe for just like a lemon sorbet. And I tend to not really follow recipes that I look at. I'll be like, oh, that's a good guideline. And I ended up kind of pioneering my own recipe. And recently, I just started getting into like making different combinations of stuff. And I will speak to Jaden on this one and say I'm happy to share my recipe on the lemon sorbet. But other than that, I mean, I just kind of winging a lot of stuff recently, and for whatever reason, it's all turning out 100%, which is really cool.
That's fantastic. And I mean, with everything that's going on right now, you find those comforts where you can, and especially just, you know, we're still pretty much under lockdown here in Chicago. I know that Texas has been reopening.
Yeah.
It's an interesting point of contention in the world right now, and just my biggest thing is to the people that I care about out there, like just be safe. That's the biggest thing.
Oh yeah.
And it's less about the people that I know, and more about the people that are the other people that are out there. I compared it to whenever I say goodnight to my friends at the bar, I always tell them to get home safely. And I've had friends that are like, "Oh, I'm fine. I haven't, I stopped drinking an hour ago." And it's like, I'm not worried about you making decisions. I'm worried about other people out there that are making those decisions, and it's a little frightening out there. And caution is the way to go. But
Yeah.
it's so it getting into doing the bacon, doing the sorbets, doing all that kind of stuff is definitely an amazing way to really kind of take that opportunity to be able to do something different and fun. So that's
Yeah.
exciting. I went through a move and I ended up without stuff for the majority of uh, this whole pandemic, and I'm like, I feel like I've been lazy and not done anything. Now I've committed to doing. We did an almost 5 hour live stream last weekend, and now we're in episode 2 of this talk show. So I feel like I've now made up for the time I lost. So, so plug away because we're getting close to. We're just over 40 minutes here. I don't want to keep you for too much longer. We've had viewers throughout this whole thing, so thank you out there for watching. This is your last call, your last chance to get any questions, or if you are a relative of Adam's, to put any other fun, quirky things that we should know into the comments.
Okay.
Dad insists. I'm looking at you guys. I'm looking at you. Funny stories, embarrassing moments. Feel free to post them. Uh, but plug away. I want you to be able to take some time and give people the EP, the album, where they can find it, any other information. It's your time to shine.
Yeah, so all my music's on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, pretty much anywhere that you can find it in a streaming service or purchasing. It's out there. The only thing is I don't have physical copies of anything. Maybe that will be a thing one day. I think that people are caring less and less about that unless they're like a super fan. And then, of course, we all want our favorite artists' CDs still, even though we probably don't even have a CD player anymore. I know, like, my car doesn't even have one.
No, but I am that person that's out there that's like, I need to order this CD. I need to buy this CD.
Yeah.
I need to. I've Trixie Mattel for her albums. I've gone and I've had her sign them for me. When I got really big into Janelle Monáe, I legit went and ordered every single one of her back CDs, and I had friends that were like, "You still order CDs?" And I'm like, "Yes, yes, I do." And I moved with them.
It was
Can't play.
interesting. I actually, it was 2 years ago now, was working on a song for Nina Flowers, and like, it like disappeared into nothingness. Like I wrote this. It was like super out of my style, but it was like really sassy. It was hilarious, and it would have been perfect. And whoever I was working with at the time, I just like I got ghosted. I like sent over the song and they were like, "This is awesome." And then like Nina loves it. It's great. And then like I never heard from anyone. Nothing ever came from it. I think that the drag artist world is missing a sassy song that needed to come to me.
Wow. Jorge Flores, I'm mad at you now. That's worked with Nina many times, and amazing person, but That's just weird.
There's a lot, I'm sure there was a lot going on. I wasn't offended. I was like, it pushed my boundaries a lot to do something like that because lyrically it was like absolutely off the wall, and it was like a house tribal kind of style. So it was like very weird. But I like doing that. I'm hoping to do more collaborations with people this year. That is actually one of my goals, just to get outside of the box of the style that I was doing before.
Nice, nice. Uh, from that description, I feel like we should get in touch with Bibi Zahara Benet and get a little, throw a little Cameroon on that. Maybe.
Hey, I will. If you want to shop around my song, I am happy to help make that happen. If you want to make
Perfect. Perfect. Let's do this. I don't know who I can find, but I will find someone. So I'm sorry. So and Jaden said that he expects a signed album. So he wants the physical copies to eventually happen. And
maybe, maybe on the next one I can put out an EP and do like limited run copies of
right.
that.
And then Denise says that she loves listening to you and that she's your biggest fan.
I don't know. She's gonna have to compete with Dave on that one.
Okay, and we'll throw in one more question from Jaden. Is there a particular artist or someone you'd like to collaborate with?
I wouldn't say anyone like commercially, though that would be awesome. So I hate to give a non-answer on that, but they'd all be kind of independent folks in the community.
I would love their having done this for a while and getting to know so many different musicians. I would love to see you working with some of the people that I know. So, like, I completely get it, and I 1,000,000% endorse indie artists coming together and making amazing music because that's the kind of thing that I want to see for those artists, for the people that I know and that are that haven't hit that spot yet, to be able to put something together that's going to just all of a sudden be like, bam, people need to listen to this and people should pay attention to this. So maybe not.
We're in like
that?
we're in like an interesting wave where like a lot of DJs these days are taking artists from a lot of different genres. I know like Marshmello did a song with A Day to Remember, who's like a pop punk hardcore band, and so like very different kind of style. But the interesting thing is like I've been asked to collaborate on projects before, but people are always kind of try to push my voice into this like operatic style, or like they're asking me to do things that are just like not. I'm like, that's not going to come out of my mouth. If you want that type of person, like get that style of singer. Like I'm happy to push my boundaries, but to be asked to collaborate and be a different type of vocalist is sort of a weird thing. So I think that's been like my biggest problem so far with trying to find the right folks to collaborate with is like, you kind of have to collaborate with someone that wants to use you for your vocal characteristics, not to take your face and to try to apply a different type of voice to that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because it's like, okay, well, you look the part, but you're not you're not the sound that we want. So just do the way we want it. And it's like, yeah, no, that's you find the collaborations that work for you, and it'll be the right ones will show up. So that's always it's good to see somebody who knows who they are musically and who knows who they are as an artist and is able to stay true to that while still growing and evolving, but not just doing something because this would be a good move because I would be working with this person or anything like that. So
Yeah.
I definitely commend you on that. So so you are on Facebook. You are on the Instagram. Let me find my banner again real quick. Adam Meow. I just enjoy that. Adam Meow. I enjoy doing that way too much. Do you have a website or is it just social media?
If I get to the point where I am doing this all in a little bit more beyond a very part-time capacity, I think I could justify a website. But I guess for now, the best place to find me is probably Instagram and YouTube.
Perfect. Yeah, and I did. Here we go. Let's try this one more time. See, this is the fun of live. Normally, when I do my podcast, I'm able to just take and delete that and be like, I never messed up once during this whole thing. Uh, I was able to find your tracks on YouTube, and so on Spotify, Apple Music. I use Google Play Music, and I popped up the EP and the album. The EP is. I'm stretching for the title.
Time takes it all.
I knew that time was in there. Time takes it all, and then the album is Futureland, right?
Yep.
Okay. So check out Adam Noreen on social media. Check him out on your favorite streaming platform. You'll be glad you did. If you are a Kesha fan and you know the Harold song, definitely check that out. But the rest of Adam's stuff is fantastic. I don't gush over things that I don't appreciate personally, and that is something that I try to stress anytime that I do this, anytime that on my podcast, anytime now that I've started doing this show, when we did our live stream. My biggest thing personally is that I will promote a product. I will say, okay, this is good, and move on. But if I truly believe in it, if I truly enjoy it, I will gush about it. I will rave about it. It is going to be something that I'm going to want to take the time to really promote to other people to check out. So when I say that Adam's music is worth checking out, I 150% stand behind that. It's a very guitar driven. It's very thoughtful and emotional lyrical content, and that for me is a huge thing in that kind of rockish kind of a rockish tone with a little bit of that punk feel, while still being just very much relatable music. So Adam, thank you so much for being a part of this burgeoning show that is the Small Business Spotlight. I appreciate having you on.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. So for those of you that have been watching, thank you so much. We'll be back here next week. We'll have our next guest. I'm working on just finalizing some scheduling stuff, but we'll have our next guest advertised, and we'll have a link put up as soon as that is all put together. But we will be back here next Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, with another Small Business Spotlight. So once again, thank you, Adam. Check him out on Instagram, Adam Meow. Check him out on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play Music, any of your streaming services, or even just go check out YouTube and search for Adam Noreen. And with that being said, thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next week.